you and I are going to have a little chat.
This is Tall Can Audio.
What's going on, good listener? A mid-long weekend edition of the Tall Can Audio podcast. Just checking in because we can, right? We got a couple minutes here to kick around a couple things that probably aren't big enough to make it onto the the usual start of the week show, which I should point out here won't drop until Tuesday. Obviously, with it being a long weekend, we'll hold that. Obviously, I know you're all used to the Monday drop, but we'll hold off and do that on Tuesday. And so I thought there's an extra day here where you're probably all missing TCA content. You would want to hear from us. Who wouldn't on their summer long weekend? I hope I'm not interrupting any of you who may be taking in SummerSlam here on Saturday, night one of SummerSlam. Yeah, night one. You hadn't heard. It's 2 nights now. There is so much wrestling goodness in the world that SummerSlam is 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday. So I don't feel too bad about eating up a little bit of your time here because, whatever you might miss on Saturday's show, you'll catch. So, okay, I'm done. You shouldn't be, though. You should watch it. It's going to be awesome. And it's on Netflix. Everybody's got Netflix. You don't have to pay for it anymore. Look, you have to pay for Netflix, but you don't have to buy the pay-per-view. As I sit here, I thought sort of fittingly, I think on last Monday's show, mentioned that I had stopped at the Perth Brewery on the way back from the cottage. And one of my favorites out of there is the Bonfire Dark Lager, or Schwarzbier, as some of you may prefer to call it. And really, it is a more fun word, so I don't blame you if you prefer to call it that. But it's a dark lager, or at least darker. It's got kind of a rich color to it as we sit here, kind of toasted malts here to it a little bit, but a nice light body. It's basically, as the name would suggest, not the Schwarzbier thing. I don't know what that suggests. I don't even know what language that is. I think it's quite likely German. But a dark lager has the body of a lager, but just sort of a darker flavor to it. So I've been trying to move people in that direction, right? Earlier last week, we talked to Lisa Wallace, and she said, I'm a light beer kind of person. I'm not interested in a dark IPA or a stout or a porter. This might be the type of beer, were I to want to be pushy, that you might just try this. It's kind of the body still of a lager. It's a nice lighter, bodied beer, but you're starting to slide those darker flavors in there. But really, it was no more complicated than the fact it's Saturday of the August long weekend, and this is called Bonfire. And I'm nothing if not festive. So we shout out the Perth Brewery while we try this one. Like I said, just a couple of things I wanted to touch on here because I don't think they're going to survive all the way until Tuesday morning. One on the Jays, and certainly we will talk on Tuesday about the Jays, but I don't think these notes will still be front of mind after another 2 games, especially after the trade deadline that went down, which I've already given my thoughts on. The struggles that the team had last week, which I have started perhaps unfairly, and maybe unfairly isn't the right word, in a dramatic oversimplification, pointing at the brutal week that Toronto pitchers had. Coming out of Detroit on Sunday, through Baltimore for 4 games, and even on Friday in Game 1 against Kansas City, the pitchers were getting hit around. The rotation was getting hit. The bullpen was getting hit. It really wasn't very good. And if you wanted to draw, like I said, a dramatically oversimplified line between what was happening to them and the date that Alejandro Kirk disappeared from behind the plate for them to throw to, maybe that would be wrong. Like I said, maybe that would be oversimplifying it. And yet here I sit with my favorite line drawing pencil in hand, staring at those 2 things and how they may work together. Certainly got better on Saturday with Scherzer on the mound. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about here tonight. But man, the Blue Jays back catchers are taking... Is that still what we call them? Like, I grew up, everybody called them back catchers. But I don't remember the last time I heard anybody say that. They're just catchers now. Anyway, let's not get bogged down there. It's, hey, Saturday of a long weekend. You knew when you clicked on this what you were in for. It's been a bad week for Jays catchers. And that was certainly, in my opinion, contributing to what was happening to the pitchers. But Kirky takes one off the helmet. He sort of stays in there for another inning last weekend. And he kind of comes in and goes, yeah, okay. I've had my bell rung here. I'm going to sit down. They put him on the 7-day concussion injured list. He does have a rehab game on Friday in Buffalo. Buffalo is where all the Jays stars are hanging out right now. On Sunday, you're going to see Shane Bieber down there. Dalton Varsho was lighting it up down there. But by all accounts, Kirk comes out of that game on Friday feeling pretty good. He's supposed to have another one on Saturday. But I said catchers, not just catcher. Actually, I said back catcher and then got off on a tangent that I won't allow to happen again. Tyler Heineman, he gets squared up on Saturday afternoon. Another one right to the dome, right off his mask. And same thing, he stays in. He ends up on base in the bottom half of the inning, and he's sort of out there running around. And Joe Siddall makes the point, and it's a good point, as it often is when it comes from him, that, you know, sometimes you don't feel all that bad until you start to exert yourself. And maybe being out there running around on base, you know, told him, yeah, okay, I should sit down too. So he tells manager John Schneider, I'm done. And Ollie Sanchez has to come in. Now you're at your third string catcher. And all of a sudden the decision is made, yeah, you know what, Kirk? You don't need that second rehab start in Buffalo. How about you just prepare to get your ass back to Toronto on Sunday and back in the lineup there, which makes a lot of sense. But it's been a tough week or so for Blue Jays catchers. But when you look at what happened, like they've given up, I can't remember, 38 runs in their last 4 games coming into Saturday. Obviously, Scherzer puts a stop to that. But man, it had been brutal. So you just hope, and obviously, like I said, the line I'm drawing is too oversimplified. Like all of these pitchers, it's not like they can't work without Alejandro Kirk. But you just hope his return is kind of this safety blanket back in there. Everybody's more used to who they're throwing to, and they can kind of get things back on track. It was Scherzer who did get things back on track on Saturday. And the thing I wanted to bring up here is he's been on track for a little while now. And I think as recently as last Monday, I was still saying, I don't know. We'll see. Like, we aren't hearing about the thumb anymore, right? He was having the issues when he would throw, it would be sore in his thumb, and that would pinch a nerve that would go like all the way up to his shoulder. He missed a couple of months of the season dealing with this thing. He's getting cortisone shots. And that was the concern coming back in was, speaking of stars in Buffalo, I believe he made a start in Buffalo as well on his way back from that. Good year to be a Buffalo Bison season ticket holder. What does this guy have left in the tank? He was hurt a lot last year. He was hurt a lot the year before. Can he give you anything? And he goes like 3 innings in his first start at the end of March. His thumb blows up, and you don't see him again till June. I believe this today, Saturday, was his 8th start. And, you know, after the first 1 or 2, there was still a little talk about the thumb, and they're easing him back in. He's not throwing a lot of pitches. But over his last 4 starts, this guy is back to not just looking like 41 Max Scherzer, who would be passable, you know, as your number 4 guy. He looks fantastic. He's in 4 starts, he's walked 2 guys to 28 strikeouts. Like, just incredible what he's done. In his last 2 starts, he's gone 90 pitches and 85 pitches and walked nobody. Like, he is putting no one on base. Now, at times, you've seen a pitch or 2 that gets missed, and guys are putting good wood on it. But that happens to somebody, especially, like, if you're not walking anybody, it means you're staying in the zone. So if you're going to stay in the zone at some point, somebody's going to hit it. And, you know, this time it happens to be Bobby Witt Jr. that he's battling with. He gets him at least twice there on Saturday. I can't remember every at-bat that went down there. But, like, I'm starting to wonder, and I've sort of ended up down a different tangent. This whole thing was meant to be about Scherzer, but I think I said as recently as last Monday, I would still have to have a conversation, have a thought, I might have to sleep on it. If you bring in a top of the rotation starter, which at the time we didn't know they were going to do, and then they went out and they at least opened the door to that. We'll see what happens with Shane Bieber. Who would go to the pen? And Eric Lauer was sort of making his own case that, hey, fuck off, shouldn't be me. I'm killing it out here. And that I would at least have to consider putting Scherzer in the pen before Lauer. And Rob was indignant about that. And as we sit here a week later, he appears to have had the correct take in the moment. And now. And look, he's Max Scherzer. I get it. Like, to suggest that guy should be in your bullpen, even at 41, is a tough pill to swallow. Like, sometimes the name just doesn't mesh, right? Like, Max Scherzer is not a bullpen guy. Well, right now, Eric Lauer is not pitching like a bullpen guy. It may not matter if Max Scherzer, who has now gone back-to-back starts at over 85 pitches, and look, we don't see anymore pitchers throw 110 pitches per game. Lots of guys, lots of top guys come out at like 90 pitches. So he goes in, he faces Kansas City, he shuts them down over the course of, I think he gave up 1 run through his 6 innings. Like I said, 85 pitches again. And half the reason I wanted to do this show tonight was to get your opinion and get your take. You and I are going to have a little chat. Now, it'll be more me chatting than you. That's the relationship you and I have on this show. But I would like to hear from you on social media or in our direct messages. Where are you at with Max Scherzer? I think we all have to understand that there is always the chance this blows up and his thumb just falls off. That's on the table. But we're past the point where they're easing him back in at 50 pitches, and let's just see how it goes, and we'll ask him about his thumb after the game. This guy is taking a regular turn through the rotation, and like I said, in his last 4 starts, has 28 strikeouts to 2 walks. No walks in his last 2 games. He is pitching elite. Are you buying it? I think I'm buying it. I think I'm buying it. When we saw him at spring training, and he was working through some things before the thumb thing happened in the first week of the regular season, he didn't quite look like himself, but it's spring training, and he's 41 years old, and you just sort of, I'll get where I need to get to. We have seen other pitchers do that. Keep also in mind, he's coming off an injury at that point. He's trying to figure out what his body can and can't still do. And so when you and I talked last in our special relationship that I referenced a second ago on Friday about the Blue Jays trade deadline, we talked about Shane Bieber and how if this goes well, you have added an elite starting pitcher, a Cy Young winner, a Triple Crown winner. It could go poorly. There's risk. But that outcome is on the table. An elite guy at the top of your rotation heading towards the playoffs. What if you have 2? With all the same caveats, that at 41, a guy who's had some injuries over the last, it could blow up. What if we go down the stretch and this is what Max Scherzer looks like the rest of the way? I get it. Maybe I'm a little out over my skis here. Maybe I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself. But he's had 8 starts since he's been back, and 4 of them have been like elite top, and not mixed and matched with like bombs blowing up in between. His last 4, which would indicate I'm figuring it out. I'm getting comfortable again. I'm finding my stuff. I'm in the groove. What if he stays in it? Are you prepared, if he looks like this the rest of the way, to consider starting Max Scherzer in game 1 of a playoff series? And if we want to get really crazy, and we do, it's Saturday. It's a long weekend. Let's get fucking crazy. It's you and me, right? What if Shane Bieber looks like he can look like coming out of this? What if we're having a conversation in 2 months about Max Scherzer and Shane Bieber starting games 1 and 2 of a playoff series for you? Are you ready to dream a little? Or am I being, okay, Matt? Matt is being too Saturday of a long weekend. I'm curious. This is really fun. And watching, I've mentioned this so many times before on the show. The Scherzer thing this year for me, and you know this, I did not expect the Blue Jays to be in first place. And then when they got to first place, I did not expect the Yankees to just keep vomiting all over themselves. Did you see what happened to them Friday night? All 3 new relief arms are giving it up to the Marlins. Caballero, who's been brought in to improve their defense, commits an error. Everybody that they brought in at the deadline to help improve their god-awful... Like, I looked at that bullpen. Everybody did when they brought in Bird, and they brought in Bednar, and they brought in Goval. You're like, that just became a murderer's row. And on the first night out, the maiden voyage for that Yankee bullpen, they just can't stop deucing the bed and give the game away. And then give another one away on Saturday. On the same day, the Blue Jays win, to get back to my point. Jays are now up 4.5. So no, I did not expect the Blue Jays to be in first place in the division at this point in the season. So as I was saying to you guys before the season started and in the early days of the season, just be in the race. Make this entertaining. Make this fun, because we don't know what's going to happen next year. Now, obviously, a bunch of things change there. Vladdy signs, and that gets them pot committed. A bunch of things have changed since then. But watching Max Scherzer pitch in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform was, to me, this year, what watching Joey Votto hit last year was supposed to be. We didn't get that. We are getting this. And to watch Scherzer be this electric and watch his heat still coming up around 94 when he needs it, which is plenty for a guy like him. 94 miles an hour, he can work off that. And he's just lobbing soft curveballs in there when he wants to. Like, he's got guys off balance. This is a smart pitcher. This is a competitor. And when I say that the Kirk injury this week rattled Toronto pitchers, didn't rattle Scherzer. I'm getting weirdly excited, guys. And we have not seen Shane Bieber yet in the Blue Jays rotation. And look, as I sit here and record this on Saturday evening, I mentioned he's going to pitch in Buffalo, a rehab start on Sunday. So perhaps by the time you're listening to this, you already know that rehab start has gone terribly. It's a setback, and he's going to have to make more rehab starts, or maybe he felt a little something like that. Whatever. Maybe it's gone wrong. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe he makes one more on Sunday. He gets up to like 70 pitches, and they have a conversation and go, that's good. Like, maybe we could give you 1 or 2 more rehab starts, but fuck it. Everything's going well. Your next start's in Toronto. We're probably out on the road. They're going on a road trip here shortly. There's a possibility And I won't tell you what the percentage is because I don't know. And maybe you're rolling your eyes the entire time I'm having this conversation with you. We're having this conversation. No, you know. I'm having this conversation with you. Maybe you think that you're not buying the Scherzer thing yet, and you think the Bieber thing is a huge risk, and the fantasy that I'm projecting right now only has like a 10% chance of coming true. Maybe you're right there with me. Maybe you're having a long weekend Saturday too, and you're feeling enthusiastic, and you're feeling excited. And you can wrap your head around the idea of, no, this is what's going to happen. We are going to have high-end Scherzer and Bieber shit in game 1 and 2 of the playoffs. And instead of trying to figure out in what order you would run out Berrios and Gausman and Bassett, you're just trying to figure out which one of them is your third starter, and we're having a lot of conversations about who's going to the bullpen, and it has nothing to do with Max Scherzer. Man, every time you watch this guy, he just gets a little better. He gets a little better. He looks a little more solid. He looks a little more solid. I don't know, guys. I know we're talking about Scherzer and only tangentially talking about Bieber, but I'm becoming a believer. Just before we wrap on the Blue Jays here, our friend Nick Ashbourne from Sportsnet.ca and co-host with our buddy Stoughton on the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast, he referenced here on Saturday afternoon that since the beginning of June, and this number might rattle you a little because it caught me off guard, Jeff Hoffman is 13 for 14 in converting saves. And in that time frame, 28 strikeouts and 4 walks. Now, we're not mentioning here the home run numbers, but doesn't it feel like it's worse than that? Like those struggles that he was having, where where it did feel like he had given a couple away. Doesn't it feel like it was more recent than May? Through June and July and now into August, 23 for 24 in converted saves. A 3 ERA, which is, for a closer, a tad high, but not unreasonable. And yeah, just 4 walks, and he's striking out everybody. If he's sort of refound it a little bit, and Sir Anthony Dominguez has come in and has looked great in his Saturday appearance here for Toronto. Varland has made only 1 appearance thus far. Looked pretty good as well. I don't know if you're getting Jimmy Garcia back. That seems weeks away at this point. If Hoffman's going and these other 2 guys are going, man, that bullpen, it just looks totally different. We'll see about Jimmy Garcia. Nick Sandlin at some point is going to come back. Different type of reliever. But that bullpen starts to lengthen out and look pretty deep. But it's just interesting to me. I don't know why. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it. But the Jeff Hoffman struggles feel more recent to me than that. And sometimes, like we've had this conversation before when it comes to Blue Jays closers. As recently as Jordan Romano. And all his numbers would say he's doing the right things. He's getting the saves. But it just didn't feel good. He made fans uncomfortable. And when you have a lockdown, you bring that guy in and you just know it's over when your closer comes in, that feels good. And Hoffman, for a little while there, he chipped away at the fans' confidence. He got off to a good start, and then there was kind of this dip. And I don't know, it felt to me when I saw Nick Ashbourne's tweet here, 13 for 14, you kind of go, wow. Because it feels like those struggles were more recent than they really were. And it just kind of feels now like we're into that Romano thing, not permanently necessarily. If he keeps doing this, fans will come around. But there's like this lingering trauma of, I'm not sure about this guy. But it feels like whatever was going on there has sort of been worked through and come out of it, and our perception is lagging a little. I still, cringe is too strong, but when he comes in, I kind of go, feels like this isn't as over as I would want it to feel like. But the numbers here suggest that's not the right way to feel. You and me, we're having a conversation. I won't tell you how to feel. You manage your feelings the way you need to. Cool to see. Last thing here, just quickly, because it's fucking August. The Leafs have avoided arbitration with Nick Robertson. Little Nicky Bobby. They settle at $1.825 million for 1 year. And look, arbitration sucks. Lots of people have talked about it. Lots of players talk about it. You come in and you say, look, I scored 15 goals in just 69 games, and the guy only plays me like 12 minutes a night. If you gave me more ice time, I'm easily worth $1.8 million. Which isn't what he asked for. He was asking for about 2.2.5, I believe. And then you have to sit there and your employer comes in, your team comes in and goes, this fucking guy is not worth 1.8. Is not worth 2.2. We're offering him 1.2. And you have to sit there and listen to them tell you all the reasons you suck. And it damages relationships. It's a nasty part of the business. And that's why you see so many teams work hard, and players, that approaching their arbitration date, go, can we figure this out? Because this is going to be unpleasant. And sometimes when you come out of that, like, the arbitrator gives you the number. So the ability for you two to decide it for yourself has been resolved. But we've been through some shit now, and I'm pissed, and I'm not staying here. It's hard on guys. So teams try to avoid it. The Leafs and Robertson did, and I wonder, like, we've seen this guy dominate the preseason before. We've seen him do pretty well in limited minutes. There's the meme that everyone seems to find hilarious that after he's healthy scratched, he often scores when he comes back into the lineup. And yeah, that's cute, but he was usually scratched the game before because of some god-awful defensive breakdown or I don't give a fuck play at the blue line that has ended up in his own team's net. So at best, all of those moments where, look, he's back and he scored. Great. You broke even. Like, you fucked us in the last one. That's why you sat. If he was... look, this whole thing isn't to shit on Nick Robertson. I'm just not sure he's a fit here anymore. And if he was, he wouldn't keep getting scratched. But 15 goals in 69 games, if he was on a worse team and not just playing 11, 12 minutes a night, you could convince yourself. Like, I don't want to name... pick your bad team. If Nick Robertson was in Anaheim or San Jose and was getting power play minutes and playing 15 or 16 minutes a game on a second or third line instead of a third or fourth line, maybe that guy's a 20-goal guy. Now, that if he's on your second line, you're not a very good team, like I said. But there's an argument to be made that this relationship has just run its course. This team doesn't trust him. It's not going to give him the proper opportunities. And they're sort of happy to keep him around for secondary scoring because in the past they really haven't had much of it. But I said last summer, after he asked for a trade, that was a really silly time to have done that. Kyle Dubas was gone. He had been for a year. Now Sheldon Keefe was gone. There was a new coach. Show up, have a great camp, and earn your trust from a fresh set of eyes who hasn't already judged you. And like I said, he has a good camp, and then he comes into the season, and here's another coach who's decided, I don't think so. I'm not buying it. I really only play this guy when I have to. He's in and out of the lineup in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to work here. Now, look, you don't just let the asset walk if you think he's still worth something. You do the arbitration thing, and if you really hate the number, then you can walk away from it. Or you come to an agreement here, and now he's at $1.8 million, and all the usual caveats, the cap going up, salaries going up, is a guy who can score you 15 goals in limited minutes in 69 games worth $1.8 million. Yeah, that's fine. Is it likely to get any better here? Are you suddenly going to see Craig Berube play him with Tavares and Nylander? Or Matthews and Nyes? I doubt it. It sort of feels like another year later, like I said, coming into last year, let's see if the new coach likes you better than the old coach. Well, we're a year removed, and the new coach doesn't like you any better than the old coach. $1.825 million does not break the Leafs bank, and it is a nice little raise for Robertson, and it does still leave the door open for a trade or whatever else you might want to do later, but I don't think it's happening here. I think everybody gave it their best effort, and Robertson included. I'm not trying to dump on the guy. He requested a trade. It didn't happen, and he showed up to camp and worked hard. I don't feel like Nick Robertson cheats the Leafs on effort. I feel like he can't do what they need him to do. Like, he gets off some sweet one-timers and whatever. Like, at the same time that he's scoring 15 goals in just 69 games, he's getting 6 assists. And this is with a lot of guys around that team that can score. Now, he's not always playing with those guys. But, like, he's not contributing a whole lot. Like, unless someone sets him up perfectly for a sweet one-timer or a great pass, he's not creating much for you. So send him somewhere else and see what happens. This apparently leaves the Leafs, depending on who you read, with anywhere from $1.1 to $1.9 million in cap space. That's a little misleading. I don't think there's any chance at this point they are going into this season with all of Dakota Joshua, Scott Lawton, David Kampf, Callie Yarncroke, like Steven Lorentz has been re-signed. Somebody's going out the door, and probably 2 guys, which isn't going to open up 5, 6, 8 million, but it will open up some more space that hopefully you can allow to accrue over the course of the regular season. Maybe you do something. I still don't think this is the final roster they're going in with, and I don't think Nick Robertson makes or breaks anything at $1.8 million. You can trade him if you want to. You can keep him if you want to. I think there are other guys who are likely to go first and other guys who are likely to be sent down if they're not traded. So anyone out there right now saying this is a dramatic overpay or a dramatic underpay is probably not being overly genuine or intelligent. That's sometimes tougher to pick. Is this person dumb, or are they just trying to troll me? But it's fine. That's about it. Hockey news on the August long weekend. What do you want? It's fine. This is fine. That's about it. Plenty to get to later on in the week. Team Canada has announced its men's and women's Olympic training camp invitees. We'll talk about that. We'll see how the rest of this series with the Kansas City Royals plays out. All kinds of stuff in the news here that we'll get to when it's time for the real show later on, like I said, Tuesday morning, not Monday morning. So stick around for that. Just thought we'd have a little bonfire together. Which is pretty nice, 5.1% dark lager from Perth Brewery. Highly recommend. That's enough. Let's shut it down, right? Get the hell out of here. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend. My name's Matt Robinson. Thanks for listening.
The hell is that?
Number one bullshit. Oh, number one bullshit.
Why are you so pissy?